Given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, December 8, 2015, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, in Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the Board and to transact any other business to come properly before the Board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Thursday, December 3, 2015, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Tap into Westfield, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of the meeting. Dana, could you do a roll call?
Richard Sesek.
Here.
Lucy Beaver.
My last here.
Ron Friedman.
Here.
Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Chris Langhart.
Here.
Ginny Lights. Gretchen Olive.
Here.
Peggy Oster.
Here.
Mitch Slater.
Here. Mark, could you lead us in the flag salute?
Oh, yeah. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, any announcements this evening? Peggy?
Yes, I have one. I'm making an announcement about free tutoring. The PAL free tutoring program is available at all Westfield Public School for all Westfield Public School students, grades 6 through 12, every Wednesday night from 4 to 6 p.m. in room 180 at Westfield High School. The tutoring is offered by National Honor Society students in various subject areas. Food and drink are provided.
Okay, message from the community. Congratulations to the winners of the 3rd Annual Municipal Alliance Palooza for their depiction of this year's theme, A Day of Service Leads to a Life of Service. The winners received a framed award and a monetary award, which went to the charity of their choice. The winners from the Westfield Public Schools include elementary poster winner, 2nd place, Mahika Dang, Jefferson Elementary School, grade 3. 3rd place, Connor Reynolds, McKinley School. Honorable mention from Washington School, 4th graders, Brooke Butler, Paul Schwartz, and William Schwartz. Intermediate school poetry winners, 2nd place, Olivia Ebel, Roosevelt Intermediate School, grade 7. And high school PSA 1st place winning team, Charles Rule, Christopher Rule, and Julia Yang from Westfield High School. Congratulations, everyone. Brendan, do you have anything?
I have nothing.
No, sir.
No? Chris?
Yes, this is about the winter break. The Westfield Public Schools will be closed for winter break from December 24th through January 1st. All schools will reopen on Monday, January 4th. We wish our entire community a safe and happy holiday season and the best in 2016. Absolutely.
Okay, in one of the probably worst-kept secrets in Westfield history, congratulations to Westfield High School Blue Devils football team for capturing the state championship.
Woo!
It was quite an exciting night. Westfield beat Ridgewater Raritan by a score of 10-7 in the New Jersey North 2 Group 5 final, which was held at MetLife Stadium on December 3rd. And thank you very much, by the way, to the entire community, because there were a lot more Westfield folks there than the other town. Just saying. Congratulations to the whole team. It was a fabulous game, a great undefeated season. Obviously, congratulations to all the players, coaches, Coach DeSarno. The board will honor the team at our next meeting on January 5th, at which time we'll also pay tribute to one of our other state championships, our marching band, which also won the states this year, and they also performed at MetLife. And that meeting will be held in the auditorium of Roosevelt Intermediate School on January 5th. Some more congratulations to Westfield High School volleyball coach Bev Torok, who received the New Jersey State Volleyball Award at the association's annual award program on December 7th, yesterday. Ms. Torok's been the Westfield High School volleyball coach since 1995. Under her leadership, the teams have won 5 Union County championships and were state finalists in 2002. Also at the awards ceremony, Westfield High School was a recipient of the 2014-2015 Sportsmanship Award. In addition, former Westfield High School baseball standout and former New York Met, if I'm correct, Jeff Torborg, was honored for his contributions to the game as well as his scholarship support to young adults. Congratulations to our current and former student athletes and coaches. Manager. He's a manager.
Rich?
Nothing.
Okay, our next Board of Ed meeting will be Tuesday, January 5th. That will be the board's organizational meeting for the new year. We wish all our families a happy and healthy holiday season and new year. With that, we'll go to recognize the public for agenda items only. All right, seeing no one come to the podium, superintendent's report.
Actually, this evening we have two superintendent reports, but both of them I'm going to turn over everything to our business administrator, Dana Sullivan.
So our fiscal year runs from July 1 through June 30th. So we did complete our fiscal year and prepared our financial statements, and every year, as required by New Jersey state law, we have an independent auditor who comes in and audits all of our financial statements and issues a report on those financial statements. So you all have a copy, the public has a copy of the synopsis of the audit. And with us tonight, we have Bob Morrison from Hodgelick and Morrison, and he's going to present his findings.
Alrighty, good evening, everyone. You should have gotten two documents, a thick one, which is the comprehensive annual financial report, and a thin one, which is the auditor's management report. Before I get into the numbers, I'd like to talk a little bit about the process. We do our best to be as inobtrusive as possible during the course of our audit engagement, but our objective is to gather lots and lots of information so that we can form opinions about the fairness of the financial statements, whether or not the internal controls of the organization are functioning as they were designed, whether or not there is an environment that fosters compliance with the laws and regulations of the state of New Jersey, as well as the federal government and its granting agencies. So we tend to drive people a little bit batty while we're out here. We try not to, but it's something that just occurs naturally, unfortunately. So when our audit is done, as grateful as we are to the staff for all the cooperation that we get, I think they're pretty happy to see us go. But we do appreciate all the help, the assistance that we get from every member of the staff of the district makes the audit go faster, makes it go smoother, and assures that we get the full results that we're looking for during our engagement. So we appreciate the help we get as part of the audit. What are we trying to do is one of the things that you have to know. And there's really two focuses on what are we trying to do. The first one is a basic financial statement audit. And that really comprises, are you following the accounting rules? The accounting rules being generally accepted accounting principles, which are nationally set standards for accounting, and additionally the rules and laws of the state of New Jersey relating to finance and budgeting. And then there are additional regulations for fiscal compliance that the state has put out, which used to cause a lot of school districts a lot of trouble. It's hundreds of pages of regulations. The state hasn't modified those things in 7 or 8 years now, and whereas Westfield was always pretty quick on the uptake, we now have most of our school districts starting to catch up. So we're starting to, whereas Westfield has generally always complied with the regulations, some of our other districts weren't so good at that. Now, because the regs have been around long enough, we're starting to see greater compliance across the board. So while it doesn't impact you, your brethren school districts are catching up. Anyway, when we get done all of our audit processes, we issue 3 different reports. The first one deals directly with the financial statement audit. Our opinion on the financial statement appears on pages 13 to 15 of the big document, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. There's a lot of auditor speak in our reports because the Auditing Standards Board of the AICPA makes us use that language. So I come here basically to translate it into English. And essentially what that report says is that we believe, based on our audit, that the district was following all of the accounting rules that they were supposed to follow in preparing their financial statements, that all the disclosures that are required are there, and that the rules have been applied consistently from year to year. In addition to that, based on our substantive tests of the records, we find that the financial statements are materially correct with respect to amounts and classifications of the financial data. It's known as an unmodified opinion. It's the best form of audit report we can issue. So that's a compliment to the quality of the expertise of the business office, that the financial statements as presented to us were in full compliance. You see this information, by the way, on a monthly basis. The main focus of the audit is really Exhibit C1 of the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, which is the budgetary report. You deal with that as part of the board secretary's report on a monthly basis. The only changes that get made, as long as we don't find audit adjustments that have to be made, is we add in 3 numbers that are called on behalf payments. The state of New Jersey is responsible for making contributions into the teacher's pension and annuity fund for your certified staff. The state of New Jersey is responsible for paying the post-employment health care costs for your retirees. And the state of New Jersey is responsible for covering the employer share of Social Security and Medicare contributions for your certified staff. Those numbers aren't available on June 30th. They come out usually towards the end of August, and the auditors are directed to put those numbers into the board secretary's report. So it looks a little different, the totals are different, but it's essentially the same report. In addition to our opinion on the financial statement, we issue 2 other reports which reflect an expansion of the scope of our engagement. Because you collect, I hate to say a lot, but it's enough grant money from the state of New Jersey and the federal government, we're required to expand the scope of our engagement and not only evaluate your internal controls, but test them. Not only evaluate your compliance procedures, but test them on an entity-wide level. And we issue a report that appears on pages 158 and 159 of the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. And essentially, what that one says is that based on the tests we performed, the evaluations we made, we believe that your internal controls are adequately designed for an organization of your size, and that the controls are operating as intended. In addition, we indicate in that report that we found no non-compliances that are required to be reported either to the federal government and its grantor agencies or the state of New Jersey. So that one is an unmodified report also the best form of the report that we can issue. The third report we issue deals with the audit drilling down into what are known as major programs. These are federal aid programs or state aid programs. For example, your handicapped ed program, your non-public school aid programs. We select from your grant programs what we consider to be major programs. They can be based on the size of the program. It can be based on the complexity of the compliance requirements for the grant. It can be based on the newness of the grant to the district. Right? Newer programs, there's a learning curve for compliance, so we'll tend to bring in to our tests newer programs if you get them. Anyway, for these programs, we actually test against the specific requirements that the grantor agencies have in addition to the general compliance rules. And then we issue our report. And once again, the report on internal controls over compliance and compliance for major programs is unmodified, meaning that your internal controls are designed to identify and correct any non-compliances, and we didn't find any non-compliances. So 3 reports, 3 unmodified opinions. If I could hit a baseball that well, I'd be in the Hall of Fame. With respect to the financial statements themselves, the focal point of New Jersey school district finance has always been the budgetary comparison reports, which, as I mentioned earlier, shows up as Exhibit C1 of the CAFR document. It's pages 77 through 88. There are lots of other numbers in the report. There's an A section which deals with full accrual basis accounting. The state of New Jersey doesn't pay any attention to those numbers. There's a B section which is fund accounting on the national accounting standard level, and the state of New Jersey doesn't pay any attention to those numbers. The C section, and C1 in particular, is the New Jersey budgetary basis rules. They differ from the national standard, and at the end of that schedule, there is a reconciliation of the numbers to get from one to the other. But that is the focal point of school district finance. And essentially, that's where we spend a lot of our time. We spend time checking to make sure account codes are correct. We make sure that the encumbrance process is being followed, authorization before commitment, that type of thing. Proof of receipt of goods before you pay them, that type of thing. Tests for vendors to make sure that they registered with the state of New Jersey, that bids were procured in the event that they go over the bid threshold. A lot of time gets spent on that. And if you look at those numbers there, you'll also see that the biggest costs of every school district in the state, yours is not an exception, is personnel-related costs. So we spend a lot of time auditing salaries to make sure that people are being paid the correct amounts, to make sure that they're enrolled in pension plans when they're supposed to be, and they're not when they're not supposed to be, that they're enrolled in health benefits when they're supposed to be, and again, not enrolled if they're not supposed to be. And those are the types of tests we perform on the documents to form our opinions both on the overall financial statements and on compliance and internal control. If you go to the last page of the C1, you'll get the summary of how you did for the year. Essentially, the district started the year with a fund balance of $7.5 million. You used $3.7 million, almost $3.8 million of that, to balance the 14-15 school budget, and then turned favorable budget variances of $3.9 million to end up with a ending fund balance of $7.7 million, or roughly $175,000 more than you started with. Right now, if you go into the numbers a little more deeply, you'll see that the variances can be broken down into favorable revenue variances, which amounted to $792,000, of which unanticipated state and federal aid was the biggest component. And if you look at those numbers, it involves, for the most part, extraordinary aid, which is a number that, once again, the district doesn't get certified until after the close of the year. It's a program that is supposed to be fully funded. It has never been, to my knowledge, fully funded, and the percentage that the state funds the program varies from year to year based on the pot of eligible costs rather than a formula that the state includes in their budget process. So it's simply if they have a $10 million pot and $20 million of eligible costs come in, they fund it 50%. If the pot of eligible costs gets bigger, the funding level goes down. On the expenditure side, you had favorable budget variances of $2.3 million. The biggest piece of that was in operations, which was and that essentially worked out to about a 2.5% favorable variance, which, you know, on a what's supposed to be a planning document, that is a pretty high realization rate. It's unfortunate you have to run at those kind of rates right now because of the limitations that the state has imposed on you with the levy cap of 2% each year and the fund balance cap of 2% that you're allowed to keep. So essentially, if you have a fund balance that exceeds 2% of your budget expenditures, you're required by law to roll it into a tax relief fund. And the district has, in fact, done that every year for the last several years. And and it's actually part of the budget planning process. Once you use surplus, and surplus I think is a misnomer. It's fund balance really, because it's not extra. It's necessary for a lot of reasons. But once you start building that into the budgetary calculations, you have to be able to regenerate that fund balance each year to use it in the next cycle, or else you run into problems with your budget. You're either going to have to raise taxes or lower spending to make up for it. At the end of the year, I mentioned that there was a $7+ million number in your fund balance. That's also a little bit misleading. If you look at the last page, page 88 of C1, you'll see that out of the 7.7 million, over 1.7 million is already being used in the 15-16 budget. 1.2 million of that number is pledged to be used in the 16-17 budget and cannot be diverted for any other purpose. 2.6 million of that amount has been placed into maintenance and capital reserves. That money is restricted by law for infrastructure improvements and is used in lieu of additional bonding, additional financing costs. And to my mind, that's one of the best uses of favorable variances, because it limits the amount of debt you have to issue going forward, and the less debt you have to issue, the less interest you have to pay. So you not only save by not having debt issuances, but every year you don't have to pay the interest, and it compounds itself. Anyway, after everything is said and done, you're left with only $2.2 million of what's known as unassigned, undesignated fund balance. But out of that, more than half of it represents not cash in the bank, but an IOU from the state of New Jersey that you don't get until the end of August each year. So at the end of June of 2015, your real discretionary cash balance, believe it or not, was under $1 million, $941,000. So when people talk about 7.7, the number is really less than $1 million. The district also operates enterprise funds, which are designed to pay for their own costs from their own operating revenues to keep the taxpayers out of it. Essentially, you run two programs. You run a cafeteria operation, food services for the entire district, and you run the WRAP program. Both of those programs operated in the black, so they were operating as intended. And historically, what the district does is, if you start accumulating any kind of residual fund balance in those funds, the money gets plowed back into the programs, either new equipment or something of that nature, to improve program services going forward. The district also maintains fiduciary funds, which are essentially trust funds or funds held on behalf of other people. The biggest accounts within that classification are the student activity funds. And I mention this only because in the last 2 to 3 years, this district has become what I think is the best practice of all of my school district clients, and I use your district as an example of how your student activities should be run. You have created uniformity throughout the district, so everybody's using the same software. Everybody's keeping the same kind of records, the same forms, the same required reporting to the administration. And when you see what's out there in other districts, essentially there's very little uniformity. And the further you get from the business office, the more likely it is bad things can happen. So we are very happy to see this uniformity, and on top of the uniformity of the reporting, the requirement that the information flow into the business office for review. You also have an unemployment account. The district is self-insured for unemployment. The good news there is that the money's coming into the fund from employee deductions and board contributions exceeds the amounts that you're paying in actual unemployment expenses, so you're operating at a good, safe level there. You've got more than a half a year's benefits sitting in the account, unspoken for, at the end of June of 2015. So if if something were to happen and unemployment costs would go up, you would have enough time to react and deal with it in the next budget cycle. Finally, the district has several bond issues outstanding in the form of long-term debt. I mention this because you've been aggressive in the bond market the last couple of years, and this is a wonderful time to be in the bond market because interest rates are at historic lows. 10 years ago, it was not unusual to see 6-7% coupon rates on bonds. Now you're seeing 2s and 3s. In addition to that, business office is constantly reviewing the outstanding debt to see if there are any refinancing possibilities. And during the year, you were able to you were able to do a refunding on one of your bond issues, and in the process, you saved over $300,000. That translates into a little over $23,000 a year for the remaining life on the bonds, and that's not peanuts. So the fact that you were able to accomplish that refunding, there's a minimum threshold of 3% net present value that you're supposed to exceed to go through the transaction of that nature. You were at 4.6%. So you're well above the threshold. There's also finally the auditor's management report, the thin one. That's a little bit of a discourse on some of the types of compliance testing and internal control testing that we do. Essentially, at the end of that report, we list the recommendations that we have as a result of our audit, and a corrective action plan would be required to be prepared by your board secretary. We have no recommendations. We have nothing that we found in the course of our audit that warranted one, and as a result, you have no corrective action plan that you have to deal with. Again, it was a very smooth audit. We appreciate everybody's cooperation, and if anybody has any questions, please feel free.
I just have one comment. Dana, thank you very much. Bob, thank you very much. In 15 years, this is as clean an audit as we've seen.
Yes, it is.
It's, the results are outstanding. Thank you, Peg.
Good job, Bob.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you again.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And we do have a second superintendent's report, and again, I'm going to turn this over to Dana.
We do. So we have another presentation on the bond referendum. This is pretty similar to the last presentation we did, but we do have some updated information. So again, as a recap, we have 2 questions in this bond referendum. The first one are projects that we've been calling priority 1 safety and infrastructure projects. And this is including replacement of fire alarms in all of our 10 of our 12 buildings. And there are 2 schools, the high school and Roosevelt, where we replaced the system a couple of years ago. So those schools will not have fire alarms replaced at this time. All of the other schools are 20-plus years old, and those are what we'll be replacing. We have public address or communication systems in every building, every school that will be replaced. We are replacing the switches and Wi-Fi upgrades in the elementary schools, and this referendum actually includes the labor work, some of the equipment, but mostly the labor, and that's because we will maximize our funding from the state by putting the labor portion of the project in the bond referendum, and the equipment portion of the project will be in the operating budget, so that we will get funding from the state for that portion of the project, which wouldn't be available under the bond referendum. We're replacing multi-purpose room floors in 3 schools. We're going to replace 2 boilers at each of the 4 schools listed there. We are replacing the gym door, the retractable door at the high school gym. And then we're going to be installing barrier-free access, or elevators, really, for lack of a better word, at McKinley and Roosevelt, to make those buildings completely accessible for anybody that's in a wheelchair or with a broken leg or something. So the first question is a total of $8.6 million. We're looking at, actually the interest rates right now are lower than 2.5 to 3%, but using a conservative estimate of 2.5% to 3%. If we were to sell these bonds over a 10-year period, the average homeowner would see an increase of $62.83. And if we were to sell them for 20 years, it would be $36.60. We did receive, at the last board meeting, our applications were down at the state level for review. Since then, we've received approval on all of those projects, and all of the projects have been approved for 40% debt service aid. So we will receive aid on all of those projects. The second question is much more focused, and it's just for the intermediate auditoriums. So the Roosevelt School and Edison School, we would be doing a complete renovation in both of those auditoriums. The replacement of the seats, the problem with the seats in there are that we can't even get parts to repair the seats. So the ones that are broken and making noise and everything else, we've tried to get parts, they're so old that we can't do that. So that's why we need to do a complete renovation in there. We would be looking at replacing the sound system, installing acoustical treatments to help the sound. We would have access for handicapped individuals to get on the stage, which we don't currently have. It would include electrical and lighting upgrades, including lighting to the stage, replacement of the floor in there, and we would be installing air conditioning in both of those schools. So not only would that help with our programs that are held in the auditorium, it would also help for those really hot days when our classrooms are too hot to really have effective instruction. We could rotate kids into these auditoriums and actually use them for instructional purposes as well. So the cost of question 2 is 4.0 million, and again, assuming an interest rate of 2.5% to 3%. If we were to sell these over a 10-year period, the average homeowner would see an increase of $29.39, and if it was sold over a 20-year period, it would be $16.88. And again, we received approval for these projects, and both of these projects are qualified for 40% funding from the state of New Jersey. So our timeline. So we did receive all of our applications from the state of New Jersey, which is allowing us to move forward with election in January. The County Board of Elections and the town were notified that we intend to hold a special election on January 26th. Tonight you have a resolution in the agenda with the specific wording that we're required by law to approve. And if you approve that, we will move forward with the January 26th election. That election will be held 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., which are the hours we believe we could do 6 to 8 or 7 to 9. Last time we did 7 to 9, so we're continuing so we don't cause confusion. And then if these projects get approved, if the questions get approved, some of the projects will begin summer of 2016, and then we will go into the following summer as well. And just a summary of the benefits of the referendum. Most of the items are safety and compliance with code. Is why we're doing them, and it's, just again, not only the interest rates low, we're also seeing favorable construction rates in school projects that's continuing, so we wanted to take advantage of those favorable construction costs as well. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one question. It came up at a liaison meeting I was at today. Question number 1 has to pass first before question number 2 can
No,
pass.
there are 2 standalone questions.
Okay, so 2 can pass and not 1?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
it was asked at the
Yes.
meeting.
I was just gonna say that, I don't know about y'all, but the PTO liaison meetings that I've been able to attend have been, people are asking really good questions, and I think it's critical that we're gonna lose a little momentum because of the holiday. So, just keep attending those meetings, and every chance you can, talk about it and provide information on the bond. And if you can't, let me know, and we'll find someone who can go to the meeting for you. If it's a day meeting or something, we'll work it out.
Just as an FYI, I just heard before I came in here that I think it was East Brunswick had a referendum today that passed, and it was like $88 million.
It was North Brunswick.
Yeah. North Brunswick, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you want to increase?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think,
incredible.
I just want to reiterate sort of the evolution of this. So it was said last meeting as well. The first bond, the larger bond, was came from the Facilities Committee as a result of our establishing a list of needs and a hierarchy of things that need to be done in the district. It's a long list, in fact, much longer than the items proposed on the bonds. The administration and board members then met with I'll call it a citizens committee, but I don't know if you had a particular name for it, but to gather information about what citizens thought of the bond. And my understanding is from that meeting, the takeaway was that we should also try to include the auditoriums. And that was really great feedback because the auditoriums were in fact the next largest project on the facilities committee list. So to then, I think, bifurcate them as, immediate needs to the district identified by the facilities committee, and then have a separate bond on the next biggest thing identified by the facilities committee. It's sort of all triangulated, I thought, in a nice way. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thanks also to Lori and Peggy for, I think we're all set for information going out in the concert binders, right? This week and next week?
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm sure there was much folding and preparation.
Gina.
I am very excited about this bond offering. I think it's the right thing to do right now. Less than $100 per household per year to provide for critical safety and infrastructure upgrades, and less than $55 per household per year for intermediate auditoriums is the right thing to do now. So I want to thank the board for the research that went into this and the opportunity to serve the community with these upgrades, which are necessary and appropriate. The timing is right, the financial environment is appropriate to do this, and this will really serve the community well. And I want to thank Lori for the bond work on the website. Everybody should be able to find appropriate information to make a good decision, to find out why this is the right thing to support right now. So I hope the public gets the information and agrees that this is a very appropriate thing to do.
Dana, real quick. Remind us again how the state aid portion falls into this. I know we have to bond for the whole thing, but the state reimburses us.
Right.
Is that per year? Is that a lump sum?
It's
and
per
how
year.
is the amount per household taking the state portion into account?
It is.
Okay.
So yes, it's per year. So we would, if our total debt service, principal and interest was $100,000, we would budget $60,000.
Okay.
And then we would budget $40,000 receivable from the state.
Gotcha.
So that's how it would work, and yes, that's taking into consideration. It was actually, those estimates were actually considering, I think it was 35% debt service aid, just in case we didn't get approval for all
Right.
40% on all of them, but we did. So
That's excellent.
those numbers would actually be even a little lower. So between the interest rate being lower and the debt service higher, those numbers are, if anything, are going to be lower than what's
Excellent.
there.
And Dana, the choice of a 15 or 20-year bond is done at the time of the sale,
That's correct. Right.
or 10 or 20, yeah.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it. Then I would ask the board to approve the minutes of the board meeting held on November 17, 2015, and the private minutes of November 17, 2015. Could I have a second? Lucy, thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Hi.
Any abstentions?
Yes, I have to abstain.
Any noes? All right. With that, we'll go to personnel. Mark?
I'd like the board to consider personnel items 1 through 27, 25 through 27 were on an addendum at your table. Second. Mitch, thank you. Any questions or comments? Dana, please.
Rich Mutesa.
Yes.
Lucy Beaver.
Yes.
Mark Friedman.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Chris Langhart.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Olich.
Yes.
Peggy Oscar.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
That would be it. Thank you.
That would be it. Then that brings us to facilities. I do have a report.
Going down to the final.
In triplicate. I have an exciting announcement tonight on the facilities front. And sorry, Mark, I'm going to steal an item off the facilities agenda. You can get me back at the next meeting.
You mean off of the finance?
The finance agenda, yeah. But I'll leave the details for you. First, I do want to say that we did have a meeting of the Facilities Committee on Tuesday, November 24th, and had a full agenda covering, among other things, the following. The district's architect reviewed the results of the recently completed local government energy audit for the district. Mr. Duthie noted that as a practical matter, the district already operates with energy efficiency in mind and did not recommend any immediate action items. Rather, he recommends that we just keep doing what we're doing, and as the replacement needs arise, continue to accomplish them in an energy-efficient manner. In addition, Mr. Duthie also reviewed the status of various ongoing projects, noting specifically the completion of renovations at the Westfield High School instrumental music room, and the expectation that the Westfield High School emergency generator will be fully operational roughly around the end of December or possibly January, depending on how quickly they can get us the equipment. The committee also heard a draft proposal for temporary lighting at Kaler. Consistent with prior discussions, the committee has asked that a public discussion of such requests be held only after the proposal is fully drafted and available for public consideration, which is anticipated to be no later than our February 2nd, 2016 public board meeting. The committee also heard a request for additional porta-johns at various school field locations and looks forward to receiving more details prior to granting final approval to any such request. Mr. Morris reviewed with the committee an ongoing problem with people walking their dogs on the Roosevelt Field. There is renewed consideration of fully gating and locking that field, which would be unfortunate for all those who are legitimately using that field. If people would, please don't walk your dogs on school property. It's a lot of common sense given that the kids use those fields all day long. And now for the exciting announcement.
I thought that was it. I really thought that was it.
As many of us know from having been on the board for several years now, back in 2010, we embarked on a solar initiative to put solar on many of our district facilities, to put solar on as many of our district facilities as possible in an effort to reduce our electric costs and simply to be more green in our operations. For those who followed along with this initiative at the time, you know it became a significant uphill battle due to the poor condition of our roofs. The solar projects we were considering had durations of 15 years. The projected roof life of many of our roofs at that point was 0 years or worse. We then worked hard to find a developer who would replace our roofs, even if it meant no energy cost savings, as long as we met the need to repair our roofs. We thought that would have been a win-win for everyone. But the condition of the roofs was really just too poor to attract any developers. So we postponed the solar initiative and focused on the roofs. With the public support, we replaced all of our roofs then in need of replacement, which was a significant undertaking spanning 2 summers. We are now in a much better position to utilize our rooftops to produce electric cost savings for the district. I am hopeful that after our discussion of this project under the finance agenda, the board will approve a solar developer to move forward our solar initiative. And I look forward to personally signing the agreement to get that work started. Having been a proponent of this from day one, I am proud to say it is likely to come to fruition. There is a lot of work left to do and implementation will take time, but I have no doubt that this administrative team is the right group of people to get it all done so that the district and the taxpayers will benefit. So I look forward on hearing more from that in the finance agenda, Mark. And that is the facilities report.
Rich, could I just add something to the energy audit?
Please.
The one thing that they did note in the energy audit was that we should replace boilers.
Okay.
And we are already doing that in the bond
Right,
referendum.
yes.
So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Yes, good point. Any questions?
Just a comment that it is really wonderful news, and for those of us that have been on the board for a while, we know what an important initiative that is, and that was something that you talked about from your first time on the board, and it is really, really exciting that this is finally getting done, and this is a substantial amount of money to save the district. Excellent.
All right. Long-range planning, Ginny?
No report.
All right. Policies, Lucy?
Yes, have a few items. I would like the board to consider for first reading the 2017-2018 school calendar. Have a second, Jenny? Any questions? Okay, Dana?
Rich McDuffie?
Yes.
Lucy Beeler?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Chris Linghart?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Oley?
Yes.
Peggy Oscar?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
Okay, and I'd like to have the board consider for first reading the following policy that's attached, 2431.1, initiation of athletic programs. Can I have a second? Ginny? Any questions?
I have a question. Two things I underlined when I read this. One was that the board will approve no more than one program a year, and the second is in the second paragraph, this proposal must be submitted at least 6 months prior. Taking those two things into consideration, and we're only approving one program and 6 months prior. So if you're applying for a spring sport, you wouldn't apply to 6 months before March. But if you're applying for a fall sport, you would apply 6 months prior to, we'll say, September. So, and we're only approving one. So how can we ensure that we would be picking the program that best suits us for the whole year? You understand what I'm saying? Like a timing issue, if everybody's coming in with a new sport, I know this is out there, but if everybody's coming in with a new sport that would be a fall sport, they would always come in first and be looked at first compared to the spring sport with the 6 month. I mean, is there some way that we could put in here that each year we want, we would like people to come forth at the beginning of the year if they're considering a new sport?
I think one thing that would help, unless you want to go, Ginny? No? Okay.
Well, I was going to address timing. I don't think that, let me put it in the positive. I think that there's significant information that exists regarding a sport that the athletic department, the administration, and the board are already aware of kids who would like to participate at a varsity level, authorized, sanctioned sport. So I'm not sure that that the timing question has, certainly it's legitimate, but I don't think it has the effect of unknown requests coming out of the blue and then the timing of approvals out of sequence.
Especially since,
For
if I can,
import.
yeah, especially if I can tag on to that, especially since Westfield High School has almost all of the authorized sports for the state. For under NJSIAA, there are only, I think there are only 2 left. I could be wrong. It could be 3, but we have almost all the sports that there are. So it's not as though we anticipate 5 coming up or something like that.
Right.
However, I mean, one of the sports, 2 different sports came to us. Groups of people interested in sports came to us last year, and at least one of them, I believe, is coming back. Last year, we didn't have a policy in place. So one thing maybe to consider is, since one group came at least last year to us and asked, and we didn't have a policy, it's a spring sport. If they do come to us, it's not going to be 6 months this year. I don't know if we could give some consideration to that.
I mean, I guess it's yes, absolutely, I think we would. But I also think that it's entirely possible that in 5 years there could be a whole bunch. I mean, who knows, right? I'm like being a little bit facetious, but we always have the ability, if we find ourselves frequently that the practice is not in line with what our policy is, then we would have the opportunity to revisit it. I think the idea for the one a year was mostly to try and control whatever cost that the board is committing itself to in terms of year 2 and 3 of the policy, so that we're not looking at $20,000 or $30,000, although it doesn't seem likely since we have most of the sports anyway.
Right, I didn't realize that there were only 2
I
or
didn't
3
either.
sports out
Yeah.
there. I didn't want people fighting over who was gonna run in the door first
Right.
to say, I'm here first, and
They're gonna be camping out.
like nursery school days, like go sit there at
Yes.
2 o'clock in the morning and wait for that door opens,
true.
type of
Right.
thing, so.
That's true.
And I didn't want to pit one group against another as to why my program would be better than your program.
Right. I do think, I would just respond to this, the issue of the prior team that made a proposal and we didn't have a policy, and I think that was probably a large part of the impetus for having a policy now.
Right.
I do think that, in fairness, I'd hate to see them come back and we say, great, we have the policy, wait 6 months, and it knocks them out of the spring season.
Right.
Right.
So I don't know if we need to modify the policy or we can just acknowledge that, but I wouldn't want that to happen.
I think we said that wouldn't happen for this year, right? Oh, question?
May I make a comment?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. So looking forward in utilizing a policy of this type, I might just note that there might be value at some point in moving some of the specifics into a regulation and representing the board's expectation of having a policy with certain parameters in place. And then the regulations are our interpretation of how, procedures and how it works and the specifics of timing and dollars. Takes pressure off of the board to suspend the policy if we want, at some point. And it also takes pressure off of us if you feel at some point that you want to amend regulation and change procedures. And but I think just to get it on the table is really critical right now. It lays out a timing expectation and a financial expectation over time for how to bring in a new sport. And it's something that the board has never dealt with except on a one-by-one basis, which is, not, doesn't have the clarity or the import to try to look at things with the same view for comparative reasons. So I think it's very important that we start with something and then see how it works.
Okay, Dana?
Rich Matesa.
Yes.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Mark Friedman.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Chris Lineheart.
Yes.
Ginny Light.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Peggy Oster.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Okay, and I'd like to have the board consider for second reading the following policies: 2415.05, 2466, and 8462. Second, Mitch? Dana?
Rich Matesa.
Yes.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Mark Friedman.
Mark Friedman.
Yes. Sorry.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Chris Lineheart.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Peggy Oster.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Okay, and one more I'd like to have the board consider for second reading to abolish the following policy: 2650. Can I have a second? Ginny? Dana?
Rich Matesa.
Yes.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Mark Friedman.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Chris Lineheart.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Peggy Oster.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Okay, and I'd like to have the board affirm or the superintendent's decision on HIP incident 16WI01 for the reasons set forth therein. Second, Ginny again. Dana?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Mark Friedman.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Chris Lineheart.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Peggy Oster.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Okay,
That's it?
good,
All right.
yep.
Thank you. Curriculum, instruction, and program. Gretchen?
Yes, I'd like to ask the board to consider curriculum items number 1 and 2. Can I have a second, please? Ginny, any questions on either item? Dana?
Rich Matesa.
Yes.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Mark Friedman.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Chris Lineheart.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Peggy Oster.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
No, nothing else.
All right. Finance, Mark?
Okay, we have a lot in finance tonight. So I'd like the board to consider finance items 1 through 18. 18 is an addendum at your table. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Mitch, thank you. So a couple of things. part of the items tonight, we have numbers. Well, we have the actual reading of the details of the bond proposals. So all the details are in here. The interpretive statements that will appear for folks to be able to read when they go to the to vote is in here as well. So we're approving those details as part of this. I'll make my comment now, just in general, to reiterate a bunch of the stuff that's been said tonight about the bonds. I've worked in the corporate world for more than 25 years, and as my fellow board members know, I'm not shy about raising recommendations or concerns based on sound business principles. Therefore, I can state with confidence that there are a number of good financial advantages for the school district to seek a bond at this time. Interest rates and construction estimates remain low, and the district has the opportunity to recoup 40% of the cost of all of our projects from the state of New Jersey. It's important for us to maintain safety and security in our schools, to ensure access to technology in our curriculum, and to provide functioning spaces in which our students can learn, congregate, and perform. As mentioned, the voting date is Tuesday, January 26, 2016. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Voting locations will be the same as in general elections. I want to mention to anyone new in town or anyone who has turned 18 years old and is not a registered voter yet that the deadline to register to vote in the Westfield School Bond referendum is January 5th, 2016. A voter registration form is available on our district website. If you'll not be able to vote in person on Tuesday, January 26th, you may request an absentee ballot from the county clerk. Again, this application form also is available on the district website. Just look under important messages on the homepage at westfieldnjk12.org. And now back to our original programming.
Before you, can I ask
Sure.
a quick question? The interpretive statement is on the ballot when you walk into the booth?
Yes.
It's like a big.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we're the only
You ever vote
thing on the.
Right.
I have voted, but I don't. It's usually like in the box. All right. Move along. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. Also, in one of the things we're approving here tonight, back to comments that Rich made about facilities, we're approving the award of the contract for the solar PPA services to Altec Building Systems, and the associated details are in here. So I think that's a great, has been said, is a great opportunity for us, and actually a really neat way of kind of taking a phrase that somebody I used to work with used to say, turning lemons into lemonade. You know, we took something that was really not a great situation with the bonds, with the roofs. The residents obviously bonded for the roofs, and now we can come back and do the solar, save some money, and save some energy. So I think that's great. Additionally, we had a number of items on here. As often is the case, we have a lot of gifts, so let me call them out. We'd like to accept a gift of a King Cleveland 600 trumpet, valued at $200, donated by Mr. and Mrs. John Kraut. Thank you. We accept a gift of $3,500 from the Jefferson School PTO towards the purchase of a Yamaha P22M upright piano for the music department at Jefferson School. Also accept a gift of $950 from the Westfield Coalition for the Arts to purchase a Yamaha P22M upright piano for the Jefferson School. Also accepting a gift of $164 from the Westfield Coalition for the Arts to purchase a Canon PowerShot digital camera for Jefferson School, the Artsonia project. Also accepting a gift of $377 from the Westfield Coalition for the Arts to purchase a magnetic chalkboard for the art room at Edison Intermediate, and also accepting a gift of $8,564 from the Westfield Coalition for the Arts to purchase a kiln for the art department at Westfield High School and instruments for the bands at Edison Intermediate and Westfield High Schools. And lastly, accepting a gift of 300 mesh backpacks with Lincoln Lion logo from Mr. Jeremy Stanek and Mr. James Stanek to be given to the current kindergartners at Lincoln School. So as often is the case, residents and other organizations in town being very supportive of our students. Thank you very much for that. I got a second. Any other questions or comments? Dana? Ginny?
Yeah, I just wanted Peg to note for us the kindergarten wrap program tuition increase, item number 5. She gave us a little information. Could you just kind of give the public a little information?
I did. Our kindergarten wrap program continues to be very popular with our parents and has grown each year. I believe this is the 3rd year of the program. I believe we started with 1 morning and 1 afternoon wrap program to help our parents. Next year it grew to 2 sections in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, and this year we have 3 sections in the morning and afternoon. And we are finding that it really is helpful to parents. The amount of tuition for next year will be, for the entire year, will be $4,000 for a student to participate in that. We are mindful of what the costs are elsewhere, and our parents have found that this is a very good value for them and also a good program. Their children get to stay in Lincoln School for the entire day. That's a benefit for many of our parents, and we will be offering it for the next school year as well.
Can I ask one question? What percentage of the kindergarten students take part in the wraparound program?
So,
Well, what we got?
yeah, exactly what we need is the number of sections.
We've got 6 a.m.s and 4 p.m.s, regular kindergarten.
Right.
122 students, so
So we have 10 sections of half-day
So 50?
kindergarten and 6 sections
40%.
of wrap.
45%.
60%.
Yeah.
60%.
It gets litter every
Keep
week.
it those numbers.
It's a little,
And are there a number of students who don't get in, or are we at a good number for, I mean, are we turning away students, or?
I believe this year, I think we're able to accommodate almost all, because we're able to offer the additional programs this year. Yeah, almost all. And we'll be starting with the understanding we'll have 6 sections next year. And so when parents register for their children in January, we're going to be asking most people to register their incoming kindergarten and first graders in January, so they'll know then that the option is there. There is a lottery that's held, but with 3 sections and 3 sections, we've been able to accommodate just about everyone, I believe.
So it's, yeah, about 60, a little over 60%, very nice. It's a great program.
I think that's it, right? Dana?
Rich Matesic.
Yes.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Mark Friedman.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Chris Langhart.
I abstain on numbers 1 and 3, accuse myself from those, and yes to the rest.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg.
Yes.
Peggy Oster.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
That's it.
Legislation. Brendan.
No report.
All right. Technology. Mitch?
No report tonight.
All right. I'd ask the board to note the notes for the record, including the notes for the record on the addendum. And that brings us to unfinished business. Any new business?
I have new business.
You have new business?
Yes. It's a little bittersweet. Lucy, can you come join me? Okay. So as everyone knows, tonight is Lucy and Rich's last night as board members, and so we have a resolution to read. Resolution from the Board of Education to Lucy Biegler, who served from 2012 to 15. Whereas Lucy Biegler has served with dedication to the children, families, and community members of Westfield for 3 years on the Westfield Board of Ed. And whereas, having served as chairperson of the Policies Committee, thank God, Lucy Biegler has contributed her professional experience as an educator to continue the tradition of excellence in the Westfield Public Schools. And whereas, as a member of the Long-Range Planning and Legislation Committees and as liaison to Wilson and Washington Elementary Schools, Lucy Biegler has demonstrated her commitment to the Westfield Public Schools. Therefore be it resolved that this Board of Education recognizes Lucy Biegler for her valued service on the Westfield Board of Ed from 2012 to 2015, and that this resolution be presented to Lucy Biegler on December 8th, 2015, and that a copy of this resolution attesting to the appreciation of the Board of Education becomes part of the official minutes of this meeting. One second. I just wanted to, I think other people may have something to say too. I just wanted to say, from my view, your stay on the board was too short, much like you, but it was sweet, and we are incredibly grateful for your contribution. And personally, I really appreciated that you brought an educator's view to the table, and you were a very loud and very consistent voice for us, constantly reminding us of not only the staff, but the reason that we're here, the kids in the district. And it meant a lot. So thank you also for the thankless job of leading the policies committee, and thank you for never being afraid to speak your mind in all your contributions. So thank you. I don't know if anybody else.
Yeah, let me take their photos first.
Wait, can you see? Yeah.
What? Oh, well.
Okay, all right.
We good? Can we get the little glass?
Yeah.
Battery recycle.
So, Lucy, cannot let tonight go without thanking you, and actually Gretchen just echoed exactly where I was going to go, for all you've taught us lay board members, so to speak, about what it's actually like to run a classroom and interface with other teachers and administrators daily. For many of us on the board who work in the corporate jungle out there, it's been very, very helpful to hear firsthand, and I think it's actually really critical throughout time to have someone on the board like that. And we were fortunate throughout the last few years, Ginny and obviously Jane and many others. But it's very helpful to have someone on the board that helps in that area. Now, many people may not know that you and I had the pleasure of collaborating before as directors of one of the classic Washington school shows of all time. And if I had enough time, I was going to actually have video of us performing and singing on stage together, but it was a bit of a hectic week, so I didn't quite get to it. But although I will tell you, Lucy played a judge in one of the shows that I wrote, and it was really one of the great scenes of all time. I knew having you on the board would be a win-win for Westfield, and I am so glad to have had you at the table, and I think I echo everyone else's opinions here as well. They're free to speak, but thank you so much for your time, and also thank you to Dan and Daniel and Maria for allowing you to be here.
They'll be glad to have me back.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Chris.
Lucy, I wanted to say, we've only been on the board 1 year together, but I hate to see you go. There's a common theme here. Having you on the board as a teacher, I always try and be mindful of all the stats and salary numbers that we look at on the paper, and try and keep in mind that these are people, and these are their jobs and their livelihoods, and the decisions we make have a real impact. Having you on the board, give a teacher's point of view, really hammers that home. You could talk about the things, the decisions we make, and how the real effect they're going to have. I thought that was invaluable. And being on the policies committee together, which may be the gift that you give me, from what I understand, I thought
The gift that keeps on giving.
Last I heard was schlep.
Yes, well, and I know who put that word out. It was me. But I thought you chaired those beautifully. I thought you had a light touch. I thought you kept everybody involved. I thought you managed to bring out the important points that we should be talking about. I think that committee was better for having you on it. And I'm sorry to see you go, and I think we were a better board for having you on our board, and I wish you the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And
Go ahead, Jenny.
Lucy, thank you for bringing insight and experience to the table. Your educator's mind and view and heart has been valuable. Thank you for...
I said I wasn't going to cry tonight. You guys are making me go.
Thank you for coming to Atlantic City to spend time...
No, it was fun. I learned a lot.
to spend time learning about the role here, about the perspective, and about each other, so that we could put valuable time to work here for good decisions for our children.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And Lucy?
Yeah.
I'm also the newbie on the board, so I want to thank you for being my side arm here, because I think every time I come in, I'm like, can I just ask you one question? So that I don't say something stupid, and you've been great. And the other thing is, I didn't know you beforehand, and you're an addition to my friend group, and I hope to keep in contact with you in the future. I'm sure you'll be a great resource as I finish off my 2 years here on the board.
Of course.
And on behalf of the students, thank you very much, Lucy. Appreciate it.
Do I say something now, or can I?
Absolutely.
I can say my little thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just get it.
Now's the time.
Okay, so I commented that I have to give a sappy speech tonight, and I know you all laughed, but it's because I don't like closure, but here it goes. Okay, justice. Okay. Good evening. Let me start out by saying it's been a pleasure working with such a great group of people who share a very strong and passionate concern for education, the children of Westfield, and the town itself in general. For me, my interest in education came from my parents, who had very little of it in Italy, but wanted their children to get as much of it as they could. They made sure I went to school in a good town with a great school system, and that's how we ended up right here in Westfield. I think it's my parents' emphasis on education and how much they respected and appreciated not only good education, but also good educators that really made me want to become a teacher and to help children. My journey in education started as a student here in Westfield, from Washington School, then Roosevelt, and then the high school. Besides my parents, many of the people who made the biggest impression on me and who were the most influential in my life were the teachers right here in this town. They furthered my desire to become a teacher myself. So once I graduated high school, I studied to become a K-8 teacher with a master's in reading specialization. I've been happily teaching children of all ages for 23 years, most recently becoming a literacy coach in the district I teach. This position came with administrative responsibilities, so I was beginning to see education from many different perspectives. Being a parent of children going through the Westfield school system, I gained yet another perspective. Still, with all my years as a student, a teacher, a coach, an administrator, and a parent of students, I'd yet to see things from the other side, from the perspective of a board member. It's something I was very interested in and passionate about, and that is what brought me to the Westfield Board of Education. Let me just say with complete honesty, and that no amount of experience in this field or as a parent of students could ever truly prepare you for a position on a school board. A thankless job is what they told me coming in. But I thought for sure there had to be a little praise and recognition for this very important job, as my parents surely saw it. But really, the reward for being on a school board has to come from within yourself, from knowing that you're trying to make things better and doing the right thing by and for the children. It takes a special person, and so I want to take a minute now to recognize and thank those special people who have become a second family to me over the last 3 years. Fellow warriors fighting the good fight. These people, to me, are heroes in the community. I know that now more than ever. They voluntarily subject themselves to countless meetings and time away from their own families and open themselves up to public scrutiny and sometimes ridicule, trying to make the education system a better, more fair, and just one. I know and can say without any hesitation that these are among the most ethical, caring, honest, and concerned people I know. I can also tell you that every decision they make is always carefully considered with the best interest of you and your children at heart and mind. I have faith in all of them to make the best decisions for my own children. So let me start with Peggy and Chris. I was really just in the process of getting to know you both, but it didn't take long for me to notice your genuine concern, passion, and dedication. The students and their parents are lucky to have you in their corner on the board. Ginny, as a veteran on the board, you were the one who showed me the ropes, told me what to expect, and really relieved any concerns I had as a new board member. Thank you for that. Gretchen, I have to say, as an emotional Italian, it was often difficult for me to understand how someone could stay so calm, rational, and clear-headed when all I could see was red. I envy your ability to separate the emotion from the facts. I know my husband and kids wish I knew how to do that. Mark, I will definitely miss your dry and witty sense of humor, and your digs, including tonight. Luckily, your wit didn't stop at wisecracks, as it also lent itself to critical thinking, intuitiveness, attention to detail, and sharp analysis that greatly benefited the board and the students. Brendan, when I first met you, I didn't know what to think. You were so young, but I quickly realized that you, more than anybody else on the board, could relate to and identify with our target audience, the students. Your perspective and insight proved to be invaluable. Combine that with your surprising wealth of knowledge about anything, and I do mean anything, you added entertainment value as well as a vital dimension to the board. Mitch, you're the one who said I should run for the board. I've concluded after much deliberation that I should probably thank you for it. If you weren't able to make us laugh so much, I might feel differently. You made some unbearable situations bearable with your comedic relief and wisecracks. A true class clown, Mr. Slater. Having said that, I admire your shrewdness and your passion and desire for progressive solutions in our school district, especially in the area of technology. Rosemary and Lori, I know Rosemary's not here, don't think that your contributions have gone unnoticed. Your supporting roles often require the most work, and I appreciate and thank you for your efforts in making the Westfield School District the best it can be. We couldn't do it without you. Mike, Paul, and Barbara, they say that behind every great man, there's a great woman. Well, behind every great school board, there are great people, too. Mike, Paul, and Barbara, you guys are the true unsung heroes. You sit at every board meeting, but you never get seen and never get the credit you deserve for your vital contributions. You're back there. Without your efforts to the board could not function. So thank you for everything that you do. Dana, you were my life jacket during my initial year on the board. Without your insights and patience, I don't know if I would have made it through 3 years. You truly have an uplifting personality and a kind heart, and I will surely miss you every month. Dr. Dolan, you are the definition of calm under pressure. Like Gretchen, you have an incredible ability to separate out the facts and quickly put things into perspective, never getting flustered or shaken. Your steadiness, rationale, and commitment to excellence for the Westfield School District gave the board confidence that their opinions and decisions would truly make a difference. Rich, last but not least, you took a few hits for the team this year as the default target of the board, its president. Just know, and I think I speak for all of us, that you are one of the most ethical and moral people I know, and I am so proud to have had you as board president during my term. I admire you for making tough decisions, even those that put you and your family in the crosshairs. Your backbone set an example for others on the board and gave us the courage to address, challenge, and change things that needed to be addressed, challenged, and changed. Every school system needs people like you in charge of making decisions, whether it's in the role of president of the school board, a principal, or a teacher. So to those of you on the board who may still think this is a thankless job, I say to each of you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. I will always appreciate you for doing this very important job. And even though I will no longer be at late night private sessions, I had to just make all of you a survival jar. So I tried to put in all the things you all like. The only thing that's in it that didn't come individually wrapped are Twizzlers, but I didn't touch them. So you each can have a survival jar. Barb, there's one for Rosemary. So this is yours, Gretchen. Thank you. I'll pass them out later.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
So glad it's over. Thank you. I got it through without crying.
You got it, Rich. He's got a binder clip on you.
Oh, boy.
Teachers have binders, he's got clips.
Feels weird
Oh, yeah.
for me to be giving you this. Resolution from the Board of Education, Westfield, New Jersey, to Rich Matesic, who served from 2009 to 2015. Whereas Richard Matesic has served for 6 years on the Westfield Board of Education with dedication to the children, families, and community members of Westfield. And whereas as president from 2011 through 2015, Richard Matesic has provided significant leadership and vision to the Westfield Board of Education. And whereas having served as the committee chairperson of facilities and budget and finance, Richard Matesic has contributed his analytical expertise, professional experience, and communication skills to continue the tradition of excellence in the Westfield Public Schools. And whereas in his multifaceted role as president, committee chair, and member of the Technology and Long Range Planning Committees, and as never policies, wait.
That's why you want to be president.
That's not right. And as liaison to Westfield High School and Washington Elementary School, Richard Matesic has volunteered hundreds of hours of time to the Westfield Public Schools. Now therefore be it resolved that this Board of Education recognizes Richard Matesic for his outstanding service on the Westfield Board of Education from 2009 to 2015, and that this resolution be presented to Richard Matesic on December 8th, 2015, and that a copy of this resolution attesting to the appreciation of the Board of Education becomes part of the official minutes of this meeting. There you are. Never
I do the same.
Yeah, I know.
Stick around. It can happen.
So I'll start things off by, I just want to take a moment to say thank you for your commitment and to the community and the leadership to our board. One day recently, Rich and I were here for a meeting and we were walking out. I don't know if you remember this, and there was a maintenance guy, it was probably 2 months ago, doing some work outside with the leaf blower, and because they're all, this is like the cleanest lawn ever. But he stopped what he was doing. It was Jim, right? And he came over and to shake Rich's hand, and he said thank you, and he wanted to make that known to you, that it meant a lot to him personally, everything that Rich had done for the board. And in my mind, that moment really demonstrated just how much Rich has meant to our district. You've led us beyond admirably. You've remained calm in the face of outrage and accusations. You've voiced our position with conviction and courage, and you've dedicated endless hours to improving and supporting our school system. So I just want to say personally, I've learned so much from working with you. I'm incredibly grateful for the time that I've had with you the past 4 years. Thank you for your time, energy, and commitment, and you will be very sorely missed. You're leaving big shoes to fill, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll let everybody else have their turn.
Why don't you go sit over there?
So let him sit for
We
a
can
while.
look at you.
Yeah.
You know?
All right.
All right.
This is like,
Anything else?
you won't blush, don't worry. I met Rich for the first time when I began my run for the school board almost 5 years ago. He had been on the board for a year or two, and in a very short time, he had been involved in a number of very challenging issues. I watched how he conducted himself, and I was impressed with his calmness, that's a theme here, his thoughtfulness, and his willingness to examine an issue completely before he formulated his opinion. The philosophy and mission of our board is simple. We're here to serve all of the students and all of the residents of Westfield, regardless of our personal beliefs. I do not know anyone who embodies that philosophy more than Rich. He became president 4 years ago. I've watched him conduct our meetings, both public and private, in a professional and collegial manner. He's allowed everyone to speak their minds, regardless of what his personal opinions might have been. He's rarely lost his patience. He's done this all while raising a family and working many hours per week in a very high-pressure job. He's demonstrated his leadership, and because of him, I believe we've been a highly productive board. Running for the school board once, and certainly twice, makes some people scratch their heads. Why would you want to do that, I've been asked. We do it not for personal gain and not for the pay. We do it because of the great satisfaction we get when we see all of the accomplishments of our students and staff. Rich was here to offer what he could to be certain that our district maintains the great history that it has. Lastly, when you sit on the school board, in many ways, so does your family. We've taken on a number of topics over the last few years where the outcomes have affected our families, and that's disappointing. Rich has never stayed away from the tough decisions, and some have unfortunately negatively impacted his own family. I hope that we've all learned a bit from that experience. I want to thank Rich, his wife Michelle, and their kids Rachel and Allison for their service to the students and residents of Westfield. And then, this was all personal, but just off, I want to thank you for everything that you did for me, coming on as a new person on the board. It was also helpful as I had your binder of how to conduct a campaign. It seems like only the times that I run, are there other people, more people that run.
Giving that back.
Yes, absolutely. I wanted you to have it for the, I was amazed that I still had it, but I wanted to make sure that you had it back.
Sure.
But anyway, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all
Thank
the work
you.
that you've done.
Thank you very much.
And thank you again for that binder as well. That binder has
Very
has,
effective.
has seen, it's been very effective.
around.
It certainly has. So, where to start? Well, communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. I heard these words today from, let's just say, one of our excellent educators in another setting, and it made me think about my time on the Board of Education with you as our fearless leader. I'll keep this short, Rich, but I wanted to thank you, first of all, for asking me to consider to run in 2010, which is a great honor, and I will never forget that. And for all I've learned, not just about the world of education, but what it means to be part of a team that cares deeply about all 6,000 students, teachers, administrators, and of course the hardworking taxpayers of our good town of Westfield. We may not have always agreed, but that's truly what a good board should be, as long as we stay civil, which you always have, and fair, and in light of differences of opinions. There clearly have been some challenges that our board has faced under your reign of terror, tenure. Tenure, sorry. There's that class clown thing coming out again. But not everyone is capable of having that kind of leadership quality. That is something very special. That is something very unique. And in my life, I've met very, very few people in my work, especially, that are capable of that kind of leadership. And I know firsthand the sacrifices that you and your family have made during the last few years, and Mark has certainly mentioned your family. Bottom line, I hope you feel as proud of your hard work as all of us board members here and in the past feel about your strong leadership. And that's not even counting how much shorter the meetings have been in the last 4 years than they were before that. So bon voyage, my friend.
Thank you.
And thank you.
I'd like to say something, Rich. When I decided to run for the board, I talked to people, and they said, Westfield Board of Ed is very well run, good board members, not a lot of controversies. So my first year here, we've had Park, right? We've had the temporary lighting at Keller Field. We've had our art show trend nationally on Twitter and Google, which is not a good thing, I found. And for the 6 people whose attention we didn't catch, we decided to do a bond referendum. So sometimes it feels like half the town is out here to yell at us or critique us. And I thought your responses have always been reasonable, even-tempered, even-keeled, respectful. I thought you put our positions forward in a very positive way, and I thought you were a credit to us and the way you reacted to sometimes unreasonable situations. It's only been a year, but I've learned a lot from watching you. I've learned a lot how to respond to things. At work, as I watch my inbox fill up with emails from people, it was told to me early on that, we let the board president respond to the emails, and I said, thank God. Because there are tons of them. And you've always, I don't know where you find the time, but you've done a beautiful job. And I remember one meeting when we were talking about the bus routes, and people were, going over the time it took and how it wouldn't be efficient, how it wouldn't work. And I said to myself, I don't know if this is true. I should have driven that route. And just on cue, you said, well, I drove that route. So I know we'll go from here to here in a certain amount of time and such. And that's exactly what a board president should do. I thought you've always been on top of the issues. I thought you've handled everything beautifully. I know from listening that this has been hard on you and your family. And I just want to say I appreciate having you as our president. I think this board has been better for having you, and I'm sorry to see you go.
Thank you very much. Sure.
I think I can use it for 1 or 2 more weeks. I'm the newbie on the board. I think as of January, I have to stop saying that. And I wish I was as eloquent as all of you were, but simply put, I admire you, and I miss you, and I will miss you. And I feel less fortunate from not not being able to learn a little bit more from you as being a member with you on a board. But I wish you the best, and I hope we remain friends.
Thank you.
Rich, I have to say, I would like to have that binder, because Peggy and I always run with Mark. So we need to get that.
Maybe we can do an auction.
That's right.
Put it up.
It's for sale on eBay.
We're gonna need it.
Yeah.
So, Rich, you are the,
Doesn't sound good.
wait
Here's
till
your
your
pink
turn.
slip. You're not going to be here.
Never know.
I won't come.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I believe you've been the man and the moment. I have certainly appreciated your public responses, both at the table and through your communications of emails. I think they've been well-directed, appropriate, neutralized many a difficult situation. And I think that the board has benefited tremendously from thoughtfulness and the time that you've invested in those responses. I appreciate that personally, and I know the board appreciates it as an entity. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your time. Thank you for wanting to learn the process. I know we had early entanglements.
Thank you for teaching the process.
I think you've done a great job.
Thank you very much.
Do appreciate it.
I would agree with that, and I would add, I have no idea how you had the time to do that with your job, because just being on the Board of Education is quite a commitment of time and effort. Being the president is quite a bit more, and yet you always seemed to be available, no matter what the hour, day, or holiday. And I thank you for that. And I would just like to point out that you're still the president until the board meeting, so that goes to January 5th, and you're still on the board until January 5th. Just want to point that out. It's a long time between now and then.
Yeah, things could happen.
We come back January 5th?
All right.
But we're here.
Yeah.
Say a few words, if I may.
If the other two don't show up, then you guys might have to. Saying I never see them.
Since it's my last speech, it might be a little lengthy. But that's okay.
How will we determine from the other one?
Just got shorter. First, I want to thank everybody for their comments. I really do take them to heart, and I appreciate them, and this board means a lot to me. I've had the honor to serve on the Westfield Board of Education for over 6 years now. In that time, I've served as president for 4 years, as vice president, and as the chair of the Facilities and Finance Committees. But the nicest thing about a farewell speech such as this is that it's not about what I've done over the past 6 years. It's about all of you. Because nothing any one person can do for an institution as great as the Westfield Board of Education, which is solely dedicated to the betterment of students in Westfield, is all that important. It's the combined efforts of many, most of whose contributions go unseen by the greater public, that matters. For that reason, I would simply like to spend this time thanking a short list of people tonight whom I've worked with most closely over the years, and recognizing it is simply not possible to thank everyone. Dr. Dolan, I'd like to begin with you. Simply put, I don't know how you do it. In my time on the board, we have seen a paradigm shift. In a sense, the world of public education has turned upside down, requiring more and funding less. Indeed, capping our availability of funds, which would be fine if our goal were to remain stagnant, or we were willing to cut some things so we could excel in some others. But those options are not acceptable to you. So day in and day out, you find ways to do more with less. all the while remaining singularly focused on what matters, the students in the district. Your job is no less complex than that of a CEO in a large, multifaceted corporation. But to leave it at that would trivialize those many things that the public does not see. Your job doesn't end when the school day ends. Indeed, the many nights a week you are out at meetings with or on behalf of the board or the district are too numerous to mention. And more importantly, the emotional investment this job requires of you, beyond simply getting it right for all of us, is unquantifiable. Your concern for the student who just lost a parent, your concern for a member of the staff who just learned of a significant health issue, and the list goes on. And in the course of dealing with those kind of issues, you're hit with the more mundane concerns, and yet you treat them just as seriously. A parent unhappy with a grade, or a bus route, or something that impacts the daily routine of their kid. You recognize each of these things as something that is equally important to the student who is impacted, and your actions behind the scenes show just how much you care. The state of New Jersey has lost several good superintendents in recent years due to cuts in or caps in their pay. Fortunately for Westfield, the greatest of those superintendents has chosen to remain right here with us. I am thankful for that as a board member, and I am incredibly grateful for that as a parent whose kids who are educated in your district. Which brings me to your central staff, a term we have laughed about over the years, because it sounds as if you have hundreds of people right here at Hill Street helping you in your administrative duties for the district. In truth, there are but a small handful of highly qualified individuals who, as has been seen time and time again, in fact, do the work of many. Dana Sullivan, our business administrator, is one such individual. Dana, you are everything a successful school district needs to succeed, and so much more. While you came to the district just a couple of years ago, it is as if you have been here forever. In a good way, of course. I have worked most closely with you not only as president, but as a part of the facilities and finance committees. And I am not sure which is more impressive, your substantive knowledge of the rules and regulation, your application of the rules and regulations to whatever the district's trying to accomplish, or your willingness to be available not just for the two committees I mentioned, but for all the various committees and the many projects we undertake from time to time. You reply to emails at night and on the weekends, not to mention those vacations. You are willing to accommodate our work schedules by attending meetings on the day and at the hours that we choose so you can accommodate us. You operate with unquestionable integrity. And you are not afraid to tell us, no, that's not really a good idea, and here's why. Thank you for your leadership and work for the district. Because of my work on facilities with Dana and her team, I would be remiss not to mention one of Dana's greatest assets, Mike Morris, our supervisor of buildings and grounds. Mike, on behalf of the board, thank you for all the hard work and effort that you and your team have continuously put into keeping the operations of the district safe, efficient, and most importantly, a great learning environment for our student body. We literally inundated you and your team these past 6 years with new projects. Whether it was boilers, new roofs, or a project like solar that took 5 years just to get off the ground, in each and every instance, you were not only happy to get the projects done, you took tremendous pride in doing so. And there's a little known fact about Mike that says it all. Back during Superstorm Sandy, he actually slept in this building so he could be the first one on site to assess any damage and to get the operations back to normal as soon as possible. If that's not dedication, I don't know what is. And speaking of dedication, I'd like to thank Paul Pinero, who also joined the board during my tenure as our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, and Program. We were lucky when we were able to convince Paul to join us from a neighboring school district that really valued his work as well. Paul, over the years, you have not just simply guided the district through the myriad of changes to regulations, new standards, new curriculum, and new tests that envelop the district. You have done so in a way that board members can understand and action. As volunteers, we don't come to the district well-versed in educational requirements, and without your guidance, could no doubt very easily come to a standstill as we try to make policy around what is best for the district. You approach your work with great enthusiasm and bring together our supervisors and teachers in a way that remains focused on the education of our students. In your short time here, you have taken on the challenges of STEM, our literacy work, our technology work, notably helping to integrate technology into the classroom in a way that even achieves the lofty goals of Mr. Slater, who can oppose on all of us work of the Technology Committee. And then there's Park. That one speaks for itself. Westfield has an outstanding reputation in education, and we are thankful that you are so qualified to have the job of preserving that reputation for our student body. Which brings me to another very important member of our school district, Dr. Mike Weissman. Mike also joined the district during my tenure, and we are very fortunate to have him. Mike is our Assistant Superintendent for Pupil Personnel Services, and among other things, is responsible for all of our special education programs and services. That means that we hold Mike responsible for over 1/5 of our operating budget. More importantly, however, we rely on Mike and his team to help us most effectively integrate all of our students as part of one school district, while addressing individualized needs as best appropriate to enable success on an individual-by-individual basis. Achieving success with that dichotomy in mind is not easy, particularly in an environment that is filled with requirements and regulations that must be clearly understood and fully implemented in a manner best serving our students' interests. Mike achieves this in a way that, again, is understandable and actionable by board members, seeking to make policy in areas that require an expertise that we simply do not have. Mike keeps us informed and forward-moving, and we thank you immensely for that. Barbara Ball, our Human Resources Specialist, is yet another example of excellence on Dr. Dolan's team that keeps us all moving in a positive direction. Barbara, I have valued your insights and our conversations on many topics. To pick just one, if you think about the 3 hiring decisions that I just mentioned this evening as having occurred during my tenure, Dana, Paul, and Mike, your contributions to our students are readily seen. We don't have the luxury to get it wrong and start over, because the hiring decisions the board makes, based in no small part upon your recommendations, impact our student body immediately. And there is so much more to what you do, whether it's assisting with our various contract negotiations, handling the normal course questions that come to you day to day that are so important to our dedicated staff, or otherwise just jumping in and helping wherever requested. Excuse me, your demeanor, expertise, and spirit of giving behind the scenes are invaluable to what makes the district so special. Thank you. And as we think about solid behind-the-scenes work, Lori Korecki's many talents and contributions to the district quickly come to mind. Lori is our coordinator of school and community relations, and to me is the person who makes sure that the board's messaging stays on point. Lori takes pride in making sure that all our students' achievements get the spotlight, whether it's mentioned at a board meeting, in a newsletter, on the website, in a tweet, or through the power of pictures from the classroom sent to the community. The pride Lori takes in her role within the district is evident in her work product and never-ending desire to keep us informed of what's going on around us and keeping the community informed of all the great things this district has going on year-round. Thank you for the time and great attention that you put into everything that you do for the district, Lori. As I reflect on just the little that I have said so far, it is no wonder that our students achieve such success in this district. We truly are managed and led by a highly talented and caring group of professionals, and I am proud to have been a part of this for so many years. And we are also fortunate to have a supportive town government. I'd like to thank Mayor Skibitsky, Jim Gilday, our town administrator, and all of the town council members and town employees who help make our school district a success. Your open door policy to discussions of issues that affect the school community is greatly appreciated. And that brings me to the Board of Education. There is no one best place to begin with this group. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. And generally speaking, we did not really know each other when we each ran for office and joined the board. And yet we all fit in so well together as equal contributors in our own way. And in a way that I had personally valued and been honored to have led in recent years. So let me just start with our newest members, Peggy Oster and Chris Langhart. It is hard to believe that it has only been 1 year since you're joining the board. During my first year on the board, I spent most of my time just trying to get myself up what is actually a pretty steep learning curve. Each of you has managed not only to do that, but to also come out of the gate strong with meaningful contributions, suggestions, ideas, and a desire to do what is right for the students of Westfield. Peggy, I've had the great opportunity to work with you on the Facilities Committee. Your insights come not only from your own thoughtfulness of any given situation, but from your experience as a parent with kids in the system, understanding what worked well or not so well for them or their friends, or from conversations with other parents over many years. It is clear that your thoughts and ideas stem from the very essence of who you are, an individual who cares about the success of the kids, whatever success may mean to them. Chris, we did not serve on any committees together, but we did not have to for me to understand how incredibly thoughtful you can be on the issues we are all presented with. You call it like you see it. You are a forward thinker. You are not shy to speak your opinion, and you are happy to follow through on issues or tasks because you take pride in being part of this organization. I really look forward to reading about how much both you and Peggy will do for our student body in the years to come. Excuse me, Lucy. Of all your contributions to the board, what I think is most appropriate to call out at this time is your focus on the individual well-being of our students. While we all care greatly about the emotional well-being of our students, you have the ability to describe and express all of those things that are so important for us to remember as we shape the policies that guide our students' education. Thank you for the support you have given me over the years. I appreciate the many calls we have had to discuss an issue of concern to you and to talk through how best to present and address those concerns. Each one, as I have mentioned, focused on the well-being of our student body. I guess both you and I will have a lot more free time come January, but somehow I think you will continue to listen to the conversations and will continue to reach out to the board whenever you think there's a path to even greater success for our student body. Thank you for that continued passion. Brendan, by far our youngest board member. We are lucky to have you. At a time when most people would be singularly focused on their career and personal life, you have chosen to give back to your community and the very schools you attended. You are enthusiastic and spirited in your approach to the issues. I had the pleasure of serving with you on the Facilities Committee and was continually impressed with not only your understanding of how best to approach the complex problems that our aging facilities present us with, but also your never-ending willingness to jump right in and problem solve in a hands-on fashion. Your dedication to our schools and to our town are greatly appreciated. I sincerely hope that you will continue with the board for years to come. Almost done here. Mark, who better to chair the Finance Committee than someone with an acute sense of finances, an acuity for numbers, and a hawkish desire to squeeze the heck out of every dollar this district spends? I have immensely enjoyed our debates on spending. We share the same sense of fiscal responsibility and need to improve the infrastructure. And while it's true I would perhaps let the dollars flow a little more freely than you would, we both demand a long-term view as to what our decisions today will mean to those who will sit around the table in the future. You have made and proposed hard decisions from time to time because the easy way out, while convenient for us, would have made life a little more difficult for future board members and a little more expensive to the taxpayers in town. You are cynical, but a healthy cynicism only helps to keep us all thinking of every constituent and ultimately taking the actions that are in the best interests of all of our students. I appreciate the many emails you have sent me the morning after board meetings that say something along the lines of, "Hey, great job running the meeting last night." And I always maintain that one shred of hope that the email will simply end there. But it never does. I will miss the many long and detailed morning after emails. They proved helpful in keeping with your thinking and in keeping our collective eye on the ball of each and every issue as they evolved. Mitch, while we have known each other for years, it is only through our work together on the school board that we have become friends in addition to just being neighbors. You have truly been a leader for change, for example, in the way this district speaks to the community and the way the district now looks at our technology initiatives. Although I will hasten to add that I'm thankful we have Lori on communications and Paul on technology to keep an even keel on the pace of change and the progress you demand. But your perseverance and leadership of change have been very impactful. And your personal support of me and our conversations at all hours on any topic facing the district have been insightful, to say the least. And when we have disagreed on topics from time to time, the only thing that mattered is that the disagreements were respectful of each other's point of view. It is more often than not that the policies we craft and shape have no right or wrong answer. They are a matter of what we each think is in the best interests of the district and our student body. And therein lies the hard part. But it is not so hard, in fact, when the people around the table can agree to disagree without feeling like they have to back down and without feeling like they can't speak up. I've been asked on occasion why I can't keep you in line with the rest of us when you are voicing your opinions that may be contrary to what the rest of us are thinking or saying. It is precisely because we don't line up on each and every issue that we are so successful as a whole, and I thank you for that. Gretchen, what a great partner I've had to help lead the board. You are thoughtful, not afraid to say what's right, caring of our student population, and often provide a perspective on issues that would not otherwise come to me. Your tireless efforts are greatly appreciated, and in a large part responsible for many of the things this board has accomplished over the last several years. As some may recall, Gretchen first joined the board in January of 2012 after interviewing to fill a vacancy. And in that interview, you stated, "I am incredibly grateful for a wonderful experience in the Westfield schools. My professional training as an attorney will help me problem solve in a rational way. My personal vision for students, I would suspect, is the same for all Westfield parents, to produce good citizens who act with integrity and service. These statements have proven themselves to be true time and again over the past 4 years. Your actions and leadership have since helped the board on many occasions to find the right path in best serving our student body. I am sincerely grateful to you for that and honored that we have become friends. Last, but by no means least, Ginny. Ginny is actually the easiest board member to speak about because all I have to do is mention her name publicly in a speech and everyone just starts clapping. It's quite a tribute to you. You are by far the most experienced, longest in tenure, and reflective thinker on the board. Every board should be lucky enough to have someone like you. You provide insights, both fresh and historic, that provide great guidance to the board. You serve as a constant, keeping us balanced as we strive for change and struggle to meet the challenges of an ever-changing legislative landscape. We are an active board of 9 with a collective impulse to want to jump in and help. You keep that impulse grounded in process and remind us that the process is there so that the things we accomplish will succeed in the long run. You have attended more board and committee meetings than many of us combined. You are called upon to assist in negotiations because you are valued by all sides. You are respected by the administration, staff throughout the district, the town council, and the citizens of Westfield whose kids have attended our schools for more than the 1.5 decades that you have served on the board. I personally value your input into all of the conversations, and your passion for the success of the school district has left an imprint on the town that will endure the years and is second to none. Thank you for all of that. While the 9 of us don't always agree, we're not supposed to. We are supposed to do what we think is in the best interest of the students and staff, and I am proud to say that we have collectively done that each and every day, and I have no doubt that this board will continue to do so for all of the students in the district. And most importantly, I'd also like to thank my family for their support and understanding of the amount of time I have spent on Board of Education matters. That is time away from them and from things we could be doing as a family. With that, I wish every one of you and your families a wonderful holiday season and a healthy new year. And I will leave us all with one final thought. Over the years, I've given several speeches on school-related matters, and I have included in there the fact that the Westfield Public Schools enjoy a tradition of excellence in education that is second to none. It is because of the very people that I have mentioned by name tonight, and the many more individuals whom I have referenced but could not possibly have the time to name, that these words are so easily spoken. We earn the right to say them each and every day through both large and small efforts. Thank you all again for everything you do for the district and for allowing me the honor of having been a part of it for these past 6 years. Thank you.
One more time with the gavel.
You neglected to mention the notes you sent me after meetings.
Oh.
I remember, I might even have them.
So I'm not alone.
It's a
more new
tradition
business?
well held.
No more.
Any liaison reports?
I have 2 items, Rich. The Town Rec Committee met last night. They continue to move forward with looking into turfing and lighting a portion of Tamaqua Field. That's of interest to us, given our light situation in the fields. I understand the football team had trouble finding places to practice at night, so I think that's something we want to keep an eye on. The other thing is that the Franklin PTO head came up to me, and they are going to plan a bond referendum meeting, informational session, I think on Franklin, on January 16th. I told Peggy about it, and they would like people from the board there to attend to speak about the bond referendum. So as I get the details or they come into the board, we'll just make sure we have people there.
Yeah, will you email us all so we don't forget? Will you?
Oh, yeah, I asked for an email,
Perfect.
so once I get it, I'll
Great.
send it out to all of us.
Thanks.
That's it.
Thank you. Any other liaison reports? All right, at this point, I'll recognize the public for questions and/or comments on any topic. All right, seeing no one come to the podium, I'd ask the board to approve the following resolutions. Resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters related confidential by state and federal laws and a harassment, intimidation, and bullying incident. Is further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. Could I have a second? Thank you, Ginny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any
I'm
abstentions?
waiting for the gavel.
We are in private session.
Great job.
Yes,
Thank you.
Well done. Very well done.
great job, Rich.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Really nice.